Right, hi, welcome back to another crusher repair video. This is actually a crusher modification. So I've had issues with these machines constantly with the wiring, so I'm just going to show you guys now. I'm going to torch, shine this in here. I want to show you where the engine loom wiring is. I don't know if you can quite see that, but there's lots of wires behind there. And I'll come around this side. You should see in there is more wires. Now, let me just put some light on that. The wires that are there, they're coming off a 10-second timer which activates the stop solenoid here. Above that you've got the regulator, and then a massive load of wires going into the regulator. It's going to the generator part of the engine. Now the problem with those wires all being mounted there is pretty much that they are exposed to the elements. Every time I steam clean a machine, they're going to get damp. The other issue is that they get a lot of heat from the engine and the wires go brittle. Now that in itself will then cause an issue on site. So if those wires disconnect, break down, short each other out, one or two things could happen. It could stop the engine because the fuse will blow, the main fuse. Or what tends to happen is the battery stops charging. If the battery stops charging while the engine is continuing to run, that's not a problem. But because you've got this cooling fan here, I've opened this up because I'm just going to show you something else in a minute. But so if you've got this cooling fan running here, which is designed to do, that is drawing power from the battery. The computer inside, which is activating the RAM to go back and forth, is drawing power, and eventually all that stops working. And then of course the customer turns the machine off and they can't start it because the battery's dead. So what I've done is I've had this made. So this has been in the making for the best part of 6 months. They've been absolutely hopeless in getting it sorted. I'm not good enough to make something like this, but this is a new wiring loom and I've had it modified. So what I've done is I've had these wires extended much further than they need to be. So any wire that needs to go to the engine has been extended. So essentially, if you just move that out of the way, you've got this one here which goes to the oil sensor. This one goes to the stop solenoid. And then you've got these wires which go to, so these two are for the generator for the charging the battery. This one here goes to the glow plug, this one is the live onto the battery, and this one is the signal feed to the starter motor. So any wires that go to the engine I've had extended, so that all this here, all this vulnerable wiring, I'm going to actually stick up inside the machine. I'll just show you roughly where that's going to go. So I'm going to try and mount them somewhere in here. The principle being that this stays dry, it's well away from the heat, well away from the moisture. Yes, I will have to sometimes steam clean this, but not to the extent down there. It's also much easier to get to these wires than where they currently are behind the engine. So that's what I'm going to have a go at. It's not tried and tested. As I say, I've not even tested this wiring loom to see where it's going to fit. So the first thing I've got to do is I've got to drill a hole there to get the mounting point for the regulator. Yeah, and then just basically take it from there. So that's the next stage. We're going to give that a go. This is on the machine that's had the new RAM and it's had the new engine. So basically I'm sort of going through the whole thing and trying to foolproof it. It's due to go out on hire next week to a guy that's had it regularly, and he's basically going to be the guinea pig and make sure it's all up and running. So yeah, let's go on and see if we can get this drilled, get this thing mounted on and change the wires. Right, I'm just going to drill the hole here to get this mounted. Let's start off with a 5mm, going up to, I'll probably go in at 8.5 just to make it easier to put the bolt in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the regulator here, and then I'm going to mount the stop solenoid, which has disappeared for the moment. Here it is. I'm going to mount that separately over here. quite tough to get through this steel they've used on here. Right, through with the 5mm, and I'll go in with the 8.5. Right, that's through. So now I should better bolt this bracket on. Yeah, it's going to go on there, so I should better use the original bolt that came with it and just put a nut on the back. I've got enough room there. Right, I'll find the right bolt for that now, or nut rather, M10. Right, okay, so I had a nut for it, so that's good. So we'll get that, I'll probably just mount that on there loose for the moment. Actually, I need to tighten that up because that's going to want to spin. Again, it's because it's come off a Kubota engine, it's M12. Sorry, 12mm rather than standard 13, but of course the nut I'm using on the back's 13, so got to make sure the right combination. Right, okay, so that's mounted on there nicely. Now I need to check that that fits. That's pretty good. So one of the things I've got to do is when I mount this is there's a small black wire. If you can see that. So this black wire is the earth for the regulator, or rather not the regulator, but it enables the charging system to operate. I think what I'll do is I'll plug this multi-plug in first, and then that should give me enough cable down there to be able to mount that on. Right, so there's a couple of bolts for that, which I've got here. These are 10mm. I should just be able to mount that straight on there without too much trouble. Now I could have put this up a different way, but it does take up less room on its side like this. It was mounted up the other way behind the engine, but that won't make any difference. But what will make a difference, if I can show you again, is this timer. This has to be in an upright position. You can't lay it down like that or have it like that. It doesn't work. So that is one thing to bear in mind if you're ever fitting one of these yourself on another engine. I know these are quite popular stop solenoids to have. Well, pretty much all Kubotas have them on. So just mount this earth wire behind here. We should. Because what I haven't checked is whether the lid's going to close with this in this position, but I can't see why it won't. Right, so we've just got that, pull that wire around to start that off. So essentially what I'm doing now is, if I can get these wires up here, and I'm happy with the position and I know that they're all going to be accessible, I should better close this lid and just run these wires through. And then hopefully the guys that made the wiring loom up have done it in such a way that I've got enough length on all of them. I have just tried the stop wire down to the engine. That is long enough. The others I'm not too sure about. I've also got to change, there's a wire that needs to be unplugged from here. It goes into there because originally this loom is made for a high T dumper, made by the same manufacturer, but because it's made for two machines, I have to modify the wiring loom. So it's only a minor thing. I just have to unplug this. Then there's another stop wire that comes in from the computer. That's to do with the fan fail detection. So it'll manually shut the machine down using this 10-second timer. Right, I'm going to come back to that because I know that works and it's fitted. So that's fine. What I'm now going to do is just try and run these wires through. This one's going to the ignition barrel. Sorry, this one's going to the ignition barrel. I'll come on to that in a minute. This is going to the ignition barrel, and then I've got these wires here. So I've got these two that go to the ignition light. I've got another one that goes to the fast speed tracking. This one I actually need to again modify, take this terminal off. These plug into the hour clock. And then I piggyback off the hour clock to get my voltage regulator, which is, well, not voltage regulator, sorry, voltage reader. That's something I've added on, that's not a standard thing. This is just a spare one. So I get these to run through there. Now what this is, it's again, because it's come off another machine, this is to do with the wiring system that they've got with a cold start relay. So we don't use the cold start relay, so I have to bridge these two wires here. I've got a special cap to go over there which will bridge those two wires and have it to start. Then you've got these two here. They basically go onto the micro switch for the conveyor lever, so they basically go on there. You cannot then start the machine with the conveyor lever forward, so that has to be neutral. So let's run these wires down now, try and see if we've got enough length, and see if the system works. Right, I'm reasonably happy with how that's gone. So this is your 10-second timer, that's nicely mounted on. I've done it so that it can just be taken off fairly easily. These are a habit of going wrong. See, I've got the regulator mounted on there, just needs twisting slightly to get it straight, but I'm not too worried about that. I've also pulled the, this was stitched on upside down with some tape. I've put it that way up because that's the 30 amp engine fuse, so I need access to that just in the event that should blow. But it's this jumble of wires in here, if you can see if I try and zoom in, it's all this here that I've always had trouble with in the past, and now this is in a much better area. It's not going to get the heat, it's not going to get the dust quite so much, it's certainly not going to get the moisture for when I clean the engine. Now the only disappointing thing is I've not been able to run the wires exactly where I want them. That's mainly because the engine is in the way. I was hoping to put all this in prior to fitting the new engine, but unfortunately the wiring loom just didn't turn up in time. I'll take it around the other side and I'll just show you. So that's basically what it looks like behind there now. I've only got two wires going to that side and these wires going here, which run up underneath there. So I would like to sort of reroute those, but I can't do that till the engine comes out. Two wires going to the micro switch. Again, they're a little bit tight because I can't run the wires exactly where I want to. Again, had the engine been out, then I would have run them over the top of the hydraulic pipes. But it's all good. I'll just switch the ignition on to show you guys. So voltage regulator working, ignition light's working, and it's not starting because I haven't got the lever forwards. Nope. So I've got a wire around the wrong way. That's easy enough to sort out. Right, I found the problem. This particular micro switch, I don't know if you can see, there's a top terminal there. Wait a minute, let's get my finger in, you can see. There, that top terminal there, oh, it's very difficult to film this. That top terminal there, normally that wire is on the second one down, but it will only work with the one on top there. So again, something's been wired up incorrectly, but it doesn't matter, it still works. So if I show you, if I leave that lever forward, nothing, put that forwards in the neutral position, and it starts. So that's good news. So everything's up and running, got the voltage regulator fitted in there, voltage light's working, got this bridged in here. It's all quite tidy there. So yeah, good result really. I'm going to close the lid now, make sure everything's okay. If this closes okay without any problems, yeah, that's the result. So another job done. So going out on hire next week, we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.